Let's talk about hiring. I mean, you've obviously hired people for the first business that you sold. You have lots of people using Time Doctor for their hires. You have an internal team there. What is your mentality for hiring? What type of people do you look for?
Well, I mean, I think finishers probably is the biggest thing that I look for. I have a document for all of my direct reports, which is entitled Liam and His Weird Little Quirks, which are 9 very truthful statements about me. So I would go out and talk to your 3 closest friends, as an example, and I would ask them this question. What would you say to someone that's just about to meet you if you were going to work with them? And so they then told me, and then that's what I would put together in that document. So a lot of those things are maybe things that I wouldn't necessarily say about myself. A lot of that stuff is not necessarily the nicest stuff to say, but it's very truthful. And the mission statement, kind of the thesis statement of this document is, I'd rather you make the wrong decision than none at all. Because we have employees in 32 different countries all over the world, we have over 100 people right now that just work inside of Time Doctor. It's really important for people to make their own decisions without direct management oversight. So we look for people that can really just take action, move the rock forward, regardless of whether you're actually moving the rock in the wrong direction. We just want people to move. I don't really care whether it's the wrong direction, because every decision generally is reversible within 12 hours.
Makes sense. What about any bad hires? Any horror story that stands out to you? I'm sure you fired people, but is there any one particular story that stands out?
I mean, for us, we have a philosophy. Our retention is actually pretty high. So our termination rate is, I believe, 4% last year. And that was, a lot of the times it's someone stole from the company, someone was trying to steal data outside of the company, and that's obviously an automatic termination. But in terms of just the wrong fit, they generally know that it's the wrong fit about 2 to 3 quarters before that termination actually happens. So a lot of the times we kind of just sit down and say, do you want to take another quarter, stab at this? You're not hitting your numbers. I'm trying to help you as much as humanly possible, but it doesn't seem like it's working. Where are we at? And generally with A players, they'll be the first ones to say, this isn't working, I should be doing something else.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. I think a lot of people go into those meetings being like you need to step it up, like you better hit your numbers. But my approach, or the better approach that people or higher level leaders talk about, is what can I do to help you? What am I not doing right? How can I support you to get better? And maybe there is something small that you can change or you can do to make it more clear or communicate better. But a lot of times, like you said, they might just know it's not the right fit and there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah, there's a great book that you can check out on that, which is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. So that was my personal problem in terms of management, is I would not be radically candid with people right up front. And kind of the definition of that is, if I saw that your fly was undone, I'd be like, Nathan, your fly, right? I would keep it quiet. So it's being radically candid, telling you there's a very specific problem, but I'm here to help you. So my job is to be able to make you successful as a direct report. How can I get you to your goals? Because if I can't get you to your goals, then we can't keep you in the company. But I'm here to be able to work with you. And that's a very non-aggressive way to be very direct, and also make sure that no termination conversation is ever a surprise. If it's ever a surprise with an employee, you did not do your job as a manager, because if they didn't know that was coming, that's a major problem up for you.
What are some other mistakes that you see entrepreneurs doing when hiring virtual assistants, freelancers, remote people?
Lack of process documentation is probably the largest and most problematic issue that we see. So the ability to be able to hire people and have proper process documentation is completely different in remote first companies versus on-premise companies. In an on-premise company, like in an office that I would be in right now, I would be able to show you, Nathan, how to do my particular task the way that I want you to do it. But when you are 10,000 miles away, you can't do that. So you need documentation that you can digitize, put up in a platform, and then anyone can go in, grab that information, regardless of whether or not I'm on the same time zone, and then you can basically get that feedback. That's the biggest problem that I see with remote first companies. Most large corporate companies already have this type of documentation, but remote first has to act like a Fortune 500 a lot faster.
Makes sense. I'll ask you a question that I get a lot, and I'm curious your answer. When is the right time for someone to consider hiring or start hiring?
So that's an interesting problem. It depends on your different department, but I would not be caught behind the crosshairs of, I now need to do this massive project and I don't have the capacity in place. So we hire just internally. We're probably doing about half a dozen hires a month. And for us, we probably are hiring, we need to hire, if we're ever caught in a particular month where we need to hire someone to do a job inside of that month, then recruitment in HR is failing. So we need to figure out what are the next hires that we need to have down the pipe, because we need a new BDR or a new researcher or a new marketing person or developer. We need to onboard that person for 3 months before they're actually useful inside of the business. So we need to think 2 to 3 quarters down the road, who do we need to hire right now? And we need to start putting in those specs to be able to make it happen. That's the biggest problem that I see is people are saying, oh, well, I need to hire 82 people right now and I have a 20-person headcount. That's a disaster. Anyone that hires more than 50% of their headcount plus 50 people is in a big problem, because you're going to lose the company culture. So people are just going to get hired that you're not going to really be directly connected to. Hiring is one of those things that for us anyways takes a very long time to do.
I want to talk about your conference running remote, and I want to start off by asking you, what is your opinion on remote? I mean, should every business be doing that in 2019? Are there certain businesses that should definitely have an office? What are your thoughts on that?
It's 7% of the US workforce right now, and it's projected to be 50% within the next 10 years. If you are not working remotely right now, or if you don't have a remote work agreement in place, you will be left out in the next 10 years. 86% of developers, as an example, in the United